All right, welcome to the Nerdifyed podcast. I am the Wilhelm Scream, accompanied by
Cranberrylangers, or Cran.
And I am the Cape is a Lie.
The Cape is a Lie. And this episode, we are discussing one of the hottest Netflix shows that has been out. It's been on everybody's lips, teeth, tip of the tongue. It's Stranger Things.
What could be stranger than that?
Man, it's creepy.
The things, Stranger Things, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's weird.
It's weird. It's wild.
It's wild.
Those things are strange.
We are talking about the entire series up to this point, which is season 4 just wrapped. And we're going to give our thoughts, our opinions, discussing someone who hasn't watched the entire show, what they might think of it, and being the more hardcore strangers, I think is the fan name. Yeah.
I like it.
And we're gonna discuss opinions of the people who have actually watched the entire show, see what they think about it, and our overall thoughts. So, but first and foremost, talking about TV shows, and I know Stranger Things has had its own comic book now. I was curious to hear what you guys thought. Some MSMR from The Cape is a Lie. That's lovely.
Great. Good job.
Super professional. Great.
Very professional. They were making mistakes like the children on Stranger Things. That's true. We're learning. We're
in tone. That's good.
That's right. It's all a journey, an adventure, you could say.
But as far as shows to comics, or comics being made into TV shows, which is happening all over the place, I was curious to hear what you guys had as a favorite show that's been turned into a comic, or a comic that's been turned into a show.
The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead.
We're not counting movies. Just shows.
Just television.
You like The Walking Dead?
I did like The Walking Dead. Like the first 4 or 5 seasons, I was really into it. I thought it was pretty cool. And then they did things that just killed the show, sadly. But
then they revitalized it after that.
They tried, but it didn't really take off. And
are you saying
it's kind of half alive, like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of this zombie that just keeps on walking.
Yeah, like undead, like a living dead thing.
Yeah.
It's alive, but not alive. That's what you're saying.
That's great. And you just want them to kill it, right? Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah. Like take the head right off, you know?
You want this dead thing to stop walking on into its storytelling.
Lumbering on, shuffling,
shambling into more annoying plot.
I will say this, in order to appreciate the Walking Dead show, for somebody who is actually a fan, you have to pick up the comic or graphic novel and give it a try. Like, that is where the whole story originated from. It was like one of the best-selling comic books out there, and it's going to go down in history as like one of the greatest. That's just What's that?
Was it Image that published it? Image that published The Walking Dead, or was it Dark Horse?
Was it IDW?
I think it was Image. I think it was Image, and it was the biggest series up to that point. The only other one I think you might the only one I think you could say would be second to it would maybe be Spawn or Invincible.
That was Image.
Yeah.
Yep, Image. You are correct. You beat me to it by like half a second.
To what? We're just recalling out of our minds.
Right, yeah.
Memory, right off the top of our heads. Right off the top of our heads. That's right. but I think it was like one of the most successful runs, and yeah, it definitely will go down in history. It's interesting because Image started out not really into the superhero-iness, and it got into and then and like one of their most successful titles, or their most successful title, was not at all having to do with that. That's actually the book is better than the show, in my opinion, and that's one of the reasons I wasn't really into looking after it.
I don't know. I mean, the Image Comics, I think, is really cool, just from a idea of having a bunch of artists who knew that they were doing phenomenal work that was basically keeping the comic book industry alive and keeping it interesting for people to read. They go off and create their own company together where they're going to own their characters 100%, way more freedom for the artists, for storytelling and everything else. I think they did have a decent amount that was pretty much centered around superheroes. But apart from that, I mean, I just think the idea of Image Comics in general is really cool. Just that huge amount of freedom to have storytelling go in whatever direction. And some of the comics that survived and have continued to keep going is really cool, especially Spawn, because I've started to dip my toe in that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the show, as far as I know, it branched off as far from the source material from the book, as far as I know, from the first season.
Yeah.
And after that, it went on. But you still liked it up until the fourth, so that's interesting.
Who was the actor that was the Boondock Saints guy?
Oh,
Samuel
who plays Daryl in the show?
Yeah.
Not Samuel L. Jackson.
No.
I think it was Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah.
Let me see.
Oh,
if I can-
Boondock Saints. I was thinking of the Boondocks.
Slightly different.
Yeah, they are.
Slightly
different.
different.
I got them confused.
They look nearly.
I never watched either of them, so they're about equal in my mind.
And I've watched both, and they are virtually identical. So there's no mistake there.
Except for the colors. I mean, one was cartoon.
Oh,
so
that's
they
what you
added
meant.
different
Okay,
colors.
okay. Bigot.
Portrayed by Norman Reedus. There we go.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
who it was. I was a big fan of Boondock Saints. And like, even though I don't know if most people know this is spoiler, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows about Walking Dead by now. Daryl Dixon was not initially in the comics or graphic novels when they started the show. This was kind of like a separate character that he was just given the role of. Quickly became a fan favorite. I have enjoyed that actor since watching him in Boondock Saints. I really like that movie.
The guy with the bat?
With the crossbow.
Oh.
Yeah. Crossbow.
Oh, okay.
Whose brother ends up losing a hand and eventually dying. Spoiler.
Yeah. Redneck brother.
Redneck brother. Brother.
Yeah. He was he's one of the actors I think in Hollywood that I actually like the most. I don't hear a lot out of him outside of like the roles that he plays, which is kind of what I like about my Hollywood actors.
Pretty refreshing. Yeah.
And I thought like the portrayal of the character in that time, dealing with the events of the world, alongside everybody else, I thought he did a pretty good job. Now, all that being said, go read the graphic novel. Even though he's not in there, graphic novel is still great. Cran, what is yours?
Well, they did do. Well, I would say Batman the Animated Series, based off of Batman the comics.
Technically counts.
That would technically count. I loved it, man. It was great. They stuck to the
Adam West. All right, that's great.
The only thing, you just said series. The only thing that I technically they actually had like a Batman live action series in like the 30s or 20s or something. I think it was without sound or maybe early in sound.
I think it was 30s and 40s.
And it was awesome, actually. So there was one that predated that. And I think there might have been a Batman from around those times as well. Maybe I'm confusing it with the Superman animated series from back then.
You mean a Batman Beyond?
No, Batman on Beyond. But if there was another one, I actually liked. I read a few of the Adventure Time books. Most of my favorite stuff has to do with movies that they put into books. or books that were made into movies that were made into books, like the Wizard of Oz series from Marvel. I enjoyed that just because I like seeing it take place. I mean, I enjoy seeing something more faithful to the original materials get actually like created and fleshed out. But and I enjoyed like the Star Wars series from I think Dark Horse and or Marvel earlier. I think it was Dark Horse early on, Dark Horse, and it was awesome, just great art, and it took place after Return of the Jedi, and I really love that universe. So those are kind of my picks. I cheated, I fudged it. So yeah. I did read an Adventure Time comic, and those are okay. They're pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. I remember you tried to get me into that for a while, and I couldn't. Just not my cup of tea.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I appreciate like the storytelling and stuff behind it, the humor. Like I get that. It's not what I gravitate towards.
I think you would be much more appreciative of regular show, 100%.
Probably.
Which I'm wearing on my chest right now.
Whoa.
Totally worth it.
Whoa.
Fantastic. It's not my pick because it's awesome, but I haven't read any of the like random comics that they've had from it, which I heard are hilarious too. But my pick, you guys are probably going to be like, oh, why did I think of that one? No brainer. It's Invincible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, I loved it. I actually really, really liked it. The way that they did it, the art style is nearly identical to the comics, which you never see that. I mean, even Batman the Animated Series, they didn't even do that. They still did their own style because it's Bruce Timm's style. And then you have the writing is very, very similar. It's nearly like straight out of the comic, which is awesome. The comic is written in a way that is really, really interesting because you have the classic tropes of superheroes and this and that, and you can see blatant homage to all these different kinds of heroes. You have a Superman character, an Omni-Man. You have all these different beings, and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and all these other people. You have these characters.
What?
Yeah, exactly. So you have all of these, and yet they flip it on its head because this is a completely different universe. They don't play by the same rules. They actually mess with the idea of these benevolent figures and stuff, which I know is more mainstream now. You have a lot more people who are trying to do that in like The Boys and everything else. So you know that a lot of people have been pushing that type of idea that you have heroes that are, oh, this is the darker version, but Invincible is one of like the best streamlined versions of that I've ever seen in the comics. The writing is really quick, punchy. The art style is fairly simple, but not so much though that you get bored of it. Instead, when it goes into that hard, darker area, it's even more impactful because it's like, oh no, this looks like a nice, fun comic, and then boom, somebody gets a face torn off. What the crap? So it is really, really good. And then in the show, they basically do a complete version of that. Very, very minor changes, but beyond that, there's like almost no change. It's brutal. I think because you're watching it in motion, it's even more brutal in certain moments. Like there's parts of it where it will churn your stomach and you're just like, holy crap, how is this happening? But they actually show it as not being like something that's glorifying it. Instead, it's showing like, no, this person is straight up evil. And so it's only been out more recently than everything else, so I'm not going to spoil it, but definitely recommend reading the comics. Even if you've only read like the first few volumes, since they have the giant compendiums now, I would say read the first 2 volumes, see if you like it. It's only like 30 issues at most. You can find it pretty much everywhere. And
those 2 volumes. And
then watch the show on Amazon. It is done fantastically. And basically the first season is the entire first volume of the comic. So really, really good. And in comparison to a lot of stuff that takes these things from comics and then puts them to screen, and it's usually watered down or twisted in a different way, or the themes or tone is really off. This is not that. It's still very, very true to the comic. So I've been really enjoying that.
Honorable mentions: Doctor Who, TMNT.
Okay. TMNT, I mean, yeah. That's like a no-brainer, yeah. It's been going on for only, what, 40, almost 40 years now? Like,
I think I might have read like one issue from the Doctor Who, one of their comics, one of their lines of comics. But yeah. But I know they're popular because they keep putting them out. So people are jonesing for one of the two doctors.
they got a fever,
11 or 13 or whatever.
and their only prescription, more Doctor Who.
It's more
I think the two favorites that I talked to everybody about were David Tennant and Matt Smith.
Yeah.
And then there's an older one that a lot of people like, but I don't remember which one it is, so I'm not going to take a guess and have people hate me for it.
The one with the scarf?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
I've watched a couple of scenes from like the older episodes, and they actually hold up despite discounting the horrible, completely terrible. I mean, it's per period, it's normal, but like the special effects is really bad. But despite that, it's actually written well, and it's actually enjoyable. I would actually recommend watching it, similar to like other stuff. But yeah, it's a surprise to
I
me.
mean, I think you find that with most stuff that's of that era, like including like original series Star Trek, the money that they had was significantly lower, but the writing quality is insane, like fantastic. You look at a person who's clearly leaning up against a styrofoam rock, but it's also like, hey, what they're doing and what they're saying has so much weight behind it that you don't care. You're totally bought into the concept. So
Right.
yeah,
Star Wars.
Star Wars stuff.
By the way, I actually really hold in high esteem the translation or the rendition shown in the Invincible show. I really hold that in high esteem because that is one of the most accurate. That's one of the most accurate changes of media or
Comic book to visual media.
Yeah, a form or whatever. That's like one of the best that I've seen. The only other thing being maybe kick butt. Maybe that one. That would be like another one that I found was like really faithful to the source material. So I actually I give them props for actually sticking to the work and not being afraid to put it out. Also, something that I do know about, I just want to say one comment about Invincible, is that it is comic book action, it's comic book world, but they actually show the realistic repercussions and like the actual like situations that are gonna result from these actions and stuff. And that's kind of what I figured that whole world of Invincible is. It's just taking what you know from classic comic books and going, all right, now here's what would actually happen if you had a guy who was as strong as Superman punch a guy who is more normal-ish powered or whatever.
Who's more of a human.
This would be what it would actually look like. And, I mean, it looks like what somebody who can lift a tank can, what it would look like if he punched a dude in the
Someone
face.
who could potentially blow up a planet. When they hit a person,
Right.
Something happens.
Yeah.
You see what Force does. Oh,
Right.
very exciting.
Right. It's none of that terrible power scaling that you see in the Avengers movie with Captain America forcing the fingers back or whatever, forcing the fingers on Thanos or whatever. Yeah, it's none of that kind of terrible stuff. It'd be like, squish. It's like one of those
squish, pop, etc.
Yeah, it's like a gack or something. It's something like that. Only with more red and white.
If you needed more of a visual, imagine Silly Putty getting squished in your hand.
Yeah, with more noodles.
With more noodles.
Okay.
So I also find that kind of ironic. The stuff that we all named were indies. Those were all indie comics, except for Batman, which we didn't even say counted. So ironic that all the really good interpretations of it that we've enjoyed have been indie stuff. So that's hilarious. But as far as TV shows and streaming in general, and just how much stuff is getting thrust into the forefront that we're all seeing now, that insane amounts of money are getting pumped into these shows and films and etc. Let's talk about Stranger Things. Netflix's Stranger Things. Season 4 just ended, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions about it. And we finally got Cranberrylangers to watch the show, and we're going to be able to find out his opinions on the select episodes that he got to chew and digest on. And we finally get to find out what the Cape is a Lie's opinion is of the show. I've been watching this with my wife since it came out. So I've really been enjoying it. This latest season,
was it hard to eat and go to work during that time?
No. You just put a bucket and you duct tape it to your thighs. It's really nice. Yeah, you just make it work.
Oh, that seems like that's too much work for me.
You get the fish hooks, you put them under the eyelid, and you just hold it open. It's fine. But I would say
I really want to know what goes on in that house. It sounds like a lot of Stranger Things.
A lot of Stranger Things.
It seems like you have your priorities upside down. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Right here. Oh.
My heart.
Okay.
My heart.
All right. Anyways.
Okay. That being said, I actually, speaking specifically of season 4, I think this is a great return to the better writing, better storytelling, and more interesting aspects of the characters. Pretty much since season 1. While bringing in some of the good stuff that we got from season 3. I'm personally not a huge fan of season 2. I found it to be kind of a flat line for me. I remember significantly being excited for it and watching it with my wife and being like, oh man, what's going on? Oh, let's check this out.
And then afterwards you said deuces to season 2.
There it is. Okay. And I did. It thought of me, or when I looked at it and was finished, I thought it was deuces on my chest because I did not enjoy it. It was terribly written, and just wanted to wipe it from my mind.
He's referring to cards, of course.
Of course.
With
it's a flush.
Since we are focusing heavily on season 2 right now, do you think that there is the possibility for any return of that content in future seasons? Spoilers for those who have not seen Stranger Things.
Spoiler alerts
at all.
Be prepared.
In season 2, 11 meets her sister number 8, and they connect and they start explaining like their different power sets.
Right.
Number 8 can make like things appear visually to people that aren't actually there, but they see them anyways, and they feel them and they think it's real. 11's that has kind of been telekinetic powers, opening up dimensions, things like that. That's what we've seen from 11. We haven't really seen her be able to plant things in people's mind and create images. I do think it's kind of interesting that we saw from the big bad guy.
Henry? One.
No,
number 1.
Mind player?
No, the general. The guy that they were just dealing with.
Yeah, in season 4. Henry.
Vecna.
Vecner?
Vecman? I think it's Vecman.
I can't even remember what they call him.
Venkman
from Ghostbusters?
I think it's
no.
You're talking about the big baddie from season 4.
Peter Ballard. Ballard's character.
They called him Vecna, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. But he's also Henry or 1.
Yeah. So when you're introduced to him and you kind of see like his whole power sets, he plays a lot on that whole visual aspect of things, making people see things that aren't actually there. So I'm wondering if like maybe 8 and 11 connect at some point and she kind of gets like that whole aspect of things down, where she's able to make people see things that aren't actually there as well.
Does he make them see things that aren't there, or is it that he's opening up a gate? He's opening up their mind to a portion, like a pocket of the upside down, and that
That's
because of
something
his
that hasn't really been answered.
because of his creativity, because of his power, he's able to actually manifest these things in reality, just in the upside down reality.
I think what we've seen throughout the show so far, you get to see the power of the mind. So you're seeing people do physical damage to the real world, etc. But then also when you go into the upside down, you're seeing manifestations of the real world's people's thoughts, people's emotions, people's feelings manifest in this other dimension. And so like there's certain moments throughout the series where you're seeing like people who are trying to communicate with someone, or they're in a very heightened emotional state, and you see things happening in the upside down, even if they're not physically there. Something that I think is really cool is they are connecting the idea of light with it. Light being a way of showing this communication, this interaction between the two dimensions, which is really cool, which you see in the first season with Will's mother actually finding out that Will's there, and Will talks to her through the lights. And at first you think it's a really creepy situation, and you're like, oh no, the monster.
I do not.
But then you find out that it's Will communicating through the upside down, and then everybody's like, oh wow, great. But I think it's really cool seeing the interaction you have between the mind and the power of the mind put into this, and then Vecna becoming Vecna after one gets sucked into the upside down and is then seeing the mind flayer, this being of just pure like I don't even know what you'd really call it. It's like
it's like the epitome of darkness is the best way I can explain it. It's like, because when you see him form, it's like the shadow, and it's like kind of like a smoky shadow that just kind of like takes this form of like a big spider looking monster thing.
But he willed it into that form, correct? As from what I saw, he actually willed and controlled its shape to take that form. Not that it didn't exist prior to that, but that he actually gave it a form which it uses. And I would say it'd be more like an undefined mass. So it doesn't really have a definition, but you can tell that it actually has substance, whatever substance you can have in the upside down.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that entity, I'm actually really curious about what it is. I know it doesn't have like a positive intent towards people.
It's a malevolent mass that I think its only interaction with humanity has been meeting number one, and then turning him into Vecna, while also kind of a mutual, like kind of symbiotic relationship of ideas where you're seeing all of number one's evil intent and disdain for humanity and all of his horrible aspects of his personality going into this universe where a being has never interacted with human beings, and it takes that and uses it and starts basically agreeing with him and going, yes, we should do this. And I'm more powerful than I am, or I'm more powerful than you being a human who has psychic abilities, and then slowly turning that into kind of this creepy teamwork that we're now seeing acting out in the real world, and causing damage and hurt and everything else, because you have this weird amalgamation of two ideas: this being that doesn't know what we are and doesn't like us, followed by someone who does know who we are but has a twisted view on humanity, and then squish them together.
I don't. Does it not know what humans are? I mean, as much as something that's from an alternate dimension wouldn't understand. That's something I wondered about. I pondered while watching the first season and the last season, because I skipped the majority of season 2, and I skipped completely season 3. I watched the recap, so I'll have less information going into this. So I'll just say that at the outset. But I pondered the comprehension of the plant men. Like the Gorgon or
The Demigorgon?
the Demigorgons, I pondered their comprehension of humans and of entities outside of it, and because I know there must have been something. I know there was something they fed on prior to them having interactions with this side of the opposite of the upside down, so the right side up world. But having interaction with the regular universe, I wondered like how they actually perceive people and what we're perceived as. I mean, I know they have a negative intent. I believe they have a negative intent towards them, but I don't know.
So
I'm up in the air about that. I don't even know if the Demogorgons have a negative intent towards us. I mean, we saw the interaction between Dustin and his Demogorgon.
That's true. That was another thought I was.
You know, and him having like raised him, you see him help him later on, which I thought was super interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if like that whole comprehension thing is just solely that one that happened to have the connection to Dustin, or if it's the fact that like I don't know, you take a pack of like wolves, right? Out in the wild, you throw in a human with them, what are they going to do? They're going to attack the human and view it as a threat or a food source. If you take a pack of wolves at a young age, you toss in humans around them, the dynamic is going to be different. It's going to be them communicating and operating alongside of the humans, and there's many different stories out there about that happening. So I kind of view the Demogorgons in that light, where they're not necessarily good, they're not necessarily bad, they're just creatures of this other world. I think the Mind Flayer has been around that world long enough that they know it and respect it because of its power. I guess the same could be said for Vecna. Like once you claim yourself as the most powerful, you're the alpha, right? So like they're not going to go and attack Vecna. It's just not going to happen. You might see one Demogorgon do that because he's connected to Dustin, but I don't think we will see him anymore.
That'd be a nice surprise.
I agree. I think that especially when we first see number one go into the upside down and it doesn't show the human being reality imprinted onto it yet. It's just this kind of open dimension where it looks basically like chaos and there's just cloud and everything and certain areas of ground and landmass, but nothing really holding it together in appearance. And then you see a few of these Demogorgons just kind of skulking around, which look just like any other type of vermin or creature. They probably sustain off of whatever is around, but nothing specific. And then you can tell the strongest being is this Mind Flayer. And to me, it's showing kind of a Lovecraftian horror element of you have this other dimension that has this immensely powerful being that's not able to cross over physically, but it's able to use avatars in its stead in the real world. So you see how the Demogorgons get taken over and are being controlled, and then it's this more complex being able to take over these less complex beings, being the Demogorgons, send them out to do its bidding, control them, and then and then Cranberrylangers, not watching the season three, you then see I'm trying to remember if it's the Mind Flayer.
Mind Flayer is the big spider looking one.
Yeah, he creates a massive monstrous flesh creature that is in season 3, where he's trying to basically bring himself into the real world.
Manifest a physical embodiment, manifest a physical presence so that it can embody it and live.
And that's when you see Max's brother die.
Exactly. He has the Mind Flayer has to have physical objects to possess. It has to have a physical entity to possess. So in the 3rd season, you see all these different citizens of Hawkins get taken melted down and turned into just flesh to be turned into a body that the Mind Flayer can go into. So I think it's really cool and very Lovecraftian, because you have this being from another dimension that is malevolent. First and foremost, it doesn't want to take over, or it doesn't want to interact with humanity. It wants to go and conquer humanity, and it doesn't even view us as anything more than either an object to possess or fuel for a creature it can possess. So I think that's a really cool concept. And you see his foot soldiers, including Vecna in this season, where it's a human being who's been twisted. Instead of being in the Upside Down and being hurt and killed, he instead is he's just using a person who has more power than a normal human, and he's using them for his own deeds. So I think that's really cool.
It's interesting to me because I have because as I forget his name. Is it Steve? Steve is the popular kid with the
VA babysitter.
Yeah. Steve. He has
my personal favorite character.
He mentioned mine is the fat kid. What's his name?
Dustin.
Dustin, or the drug dealing rock star guy. Anyways, the leader of the D&D club.
Eddie.
Anyways, so pretty much everybody in the show is terrible, by the way. Anyways, so everybody, even the bad guys. Anyway, so as Steve mentioned in season 4, when they were going up to try to attack or kill Vecna, Henry. When they were going up to attack the big baddie in his house, he said that the tentacles are all hive mind, and it was also mentioned by Ranger Rick. That's not his actual name, but by the sheriff. I forget his. Hopper. By Hop. When he was in Russia, he said that they are all hive mind. You attack one, and they all swarm you. But the thing is, you do have that Demigorgon, which was possessed by, or was owned by, fostered by Dustin, and it didn't seem to have as much of a connection to it. But you also see that kind of relationship with bees. Like, you can get a bee away from its hive, and it no longer takes. It has like prime directives that urge it towards certain actions. But if someone grabs it, just like a dog or something, you can breed it up to be independent or to look at you as its new queen, its new master. So I'm wondering to what extent what the line is, where the line is as far as them being one organism, one whole organism. From what I understand, all of the organisms, all the living things in the Upside Down, they are all connected, but they can be separated and they can have independent thought. So to a point at least. So it makes me wonder, is Vecna / Henry, is he part of the Mind Flayer? Is he now a portion of that genetic thing? I personally think he isn't. I personally think he's a mix. But because you see a little bit of wavering or whatever when he meets with 11 in like in the big showdown, you see him struggle internally. But I'm wondering if it's not so dependent. It makes me have hope that in the future that they will be able to manipulate or be able to interact with these beings from the Upside Down. It also makes me wonder about their whole ecosystem in the Upside Down. In one of the scenes in season 4, Vecna / Henry / 1, he said that he saw things besides the Demigorgons, besides the Mind Flayer, and besides these things that were crazier and also crazy, or they were also crazy in that environment prior to him having kind of input or interactions from what I know of from our universe. So I don't know, just some thoughts, but yeah.
No, I like those thoughts a lot. With that being said, I'm going to jump back to season 1 and where this all began with Will. So you take Will, who was kidnapped, maybe, by Vecna and then brought to the Upside Down, and then all of a sudden he has this connection to Vecna. I'm wondering how that plays into the rest of the storyline here. So, like in season 4, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump back and forth here. I've kind of done a recap over the past week or so, just trying to like catch up on everything. That way I got fresh information. But in season 4, I believe he's talking to Mike, and he says like he feels when Vecna is near, and like he starts to get like this tingly sensation on the back of his neck. In season 2, you saw that
Vecna sense is tingling.
That's right.
Yeah,
there must be a Vecna nearby. I have to beware.
And then in season 2, was it the Mind Flayer that he had inside of him?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
that's another question, because he manipulated the form. I don't know how much of Vecna was in that form, because
was it Vecna, or was it the Mind Flayer that was inside of Will?
Because what Vecna said is that it's part of him, or he alluded or implied that it is an extension of himself. So I don't know if it was Vecna or if it was the Mind Flayer, or if there is a difference.
I think it's actually the Mind Flayer has infected Will, being in the Upside Down. Because of it, he can then sense Vecna, who has been influenced by Mind Flayer in such a way, in such a large amount, that he's basically sensing the same amount of power and energy from anyone who's been touched by the Mind Flayer.
They're symbiotic.
Yeah. So you're seeing that interaction and that relationship, and he's sensing that because it's so stark and powerful in that amount of interaction.
Okay, so I do want to bring up something else. Season 1, you have Will, who spends like half of that season in the Upside Down by himself as a child.
Yeah.
How does he survive?
Yeah, because
I think that we may have an 11 situation on our hand with Will.
I do.
You do too? Is everybody kind of coming to the same conclusion here, that Will may have like some kind of abilities that we haven't been able to dive into yet?
Yeah,
he might be used by Vecna in this next season. I mean, I've seen kind of like artwork floating around where they've got like half of his face and half of Vecna's face. I don't know if that's actually the case, and like they're going to go evil with him. I do find it kind of interesting that in this last season, he's having this conversation with Mike, and he's telling him like, well, you're important because you're the heart of the team. Like, okay, but also you're the one over here like sensing every time somebody bad's going to do something. So yeah, Mike is kind of like, unbeknownst to him, caught in this love triangle that he knows nothing about, or acts like he knows nothing about. You have Will over here, who's like possibly got powers, maybe doesn't have powers.
Maybe, yeah.
Then you have 11, who's like, yes, I have powers, and I'm a superhero, and I'm just going to kick everyone's butt. So let's go. Yeah. All right. I'll let you guys take the reins.
So I think that Will is going to be, first of all, my favorite season is season 1. And that's what I like most about this season, and a little bit of season 3, is that they are going back to the really cool, clear themes from season 1, and they're doing a lot of payoff from those interactions with the Upside Down.
Fundamentals.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool to see, because you have Will, who has spent so much time in this other dimension that is so influenced by mental people, like the mental capacity of a human being influences it and manifests it in reality in that dimension, to the point where you have literally the world, the entire city of Hawkins, possibly more, in this dimension, which is insane to think. Like an entire city has been manifested into existence because of human minds being there. So, and then you have Will, who spent so much time there, has got these abilities and these powers. I see him being more of a He's going to be the conduit of where, depending on how strong the writing is going to be next season, they're either going to take him in a direction of him being influenced by the bad guy and is going to be more or less the walkie-talkie for the bad guy, interacting with the rest of the group, or he's going to basically be no longer ignored because they do nothing with him in season 4.
Really?
I would much rather see him being used in the forefront, being a character who has spent so much time in the Upside Down, possibly has like memories that are going to start flashing forward, and he's going to be like, oh, I remember this. This is what he did to me. I think this is what he's actually trying to do, and they use this information to finally stop the Mind Flayer.
I actually have a theory that he is another manifestation, like a triune being. I believe that the Mind Flayer is like the head, and I believe that you also have Henry / the one Vecna. I think that you have him as another entity representing that, and then you'll have a more human. You'll have a human person who has you have Vecna, who has all the dark experiences, and then you have someone who's willing to, no pun intended, willing to sacrifice, give of himself, and have like the good aspects of humanity and embrace those and use those for the benefit of other people. And part of his deal is that he's just communicating. That's what he's doing. He's giving a connection between the human side, between our world, and between the Mind Flayer, and that there's an understanding there that he can communicate, he can commune with both, and maybe be a bridge for both of these to greater understanding. Part of and you also see, I believe, because Vecna, he obviously has great control over how he can manifest things and create things. He can create substance or mold substance in the Upside Down. It makes me think that part of the influence from Vecna, from one, is what helped form. I mean, he literally formed, and he might be forming the understanding of the Mind Flayer, and giving it that perspective. But if it had more interactions with Will, it might come to a different understanding. And I also see that there might be like some kind of hints or allusions to this being like the future, and that there is going to be a meeting of these two. You have a meeting of 11 coming to realize she has a darkness and she has a light, and then meeting them together. You have 1 and 11 coming together and going, we have very much similar. We're two sides of a coin, and you can be this and you can be that. And there's the dark side of Vecna, and also this humanity that he's trying to get away from. And you also have 11, who has this humanity and this darkness he's trying to get away from. And I think that this future and where it leaves it at the end of the 4th season might be implying that there's going to be a bridge or a connection between these two that's going to be even stronger. And but yeah, I do think that Will does have a potential for powers, some other kind of power that makes him more easy to use, or makes him a better tool than other people.
So you think he's going to be kind of like an unwilling ambassador for interacting with Vecna and the Mind Flayer?
I think he has the potential to be an ambassador, a go-between, a bridge. Like I believe that he can meld the two together, even though he's the lowest, because everybody's disregarding him, everybody's forgetting about him. He's not important. People just kind of want to avoid being around him and stuff, but he's always trying to do stuff for everybody else.
So you think that he might be the catalyst?
The catalyst?
Yeah.
I think that he can create a symbiosis between the two through his understandings. And that's what, and you see that in the 2nd season, and you see it in the 1st season, and all these times you see that he occupies that middle space. And I think he might actually be something to help manifest that, or he might be something to use to bring that about. That's a theory.
I'm going to make a prediction for this next season that you guys aren't going to like.
Okay.
Mike dies.
You thought of that too. Oh, good.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
that's going to be a key piece for this next season, just the way that they've propped him this season, the very little involvement that he had, but how crucial of a character he is. I think that they're propping him to be one of the next characters they send off. I did think it was interesting that they put Max through everything that she went through, supposedly saved her, and then basically said she was empty. Like there's nothing left in her and she's kind of brain dead at the end. So I'm wondering like if there's more story to be said there with Vecna and they kind of bring her mental capacity back and she's got something more to contribute. Like that could be a possible storyline. But season 5, from what we've been told now, is the last season. So they said that there could be other like offshoots of shows that come from season 5. But it's going to be the last dealings with these
characters,
this cast of characters. So I'm interested to see like why keep her alive. I did think it was kind of like a really low blow to kill off Billy and then turn around and kill off Max
and basically bump off his sister. Like, yeah, that's really
it's like, okay, so let's prop this person up at the end of this last season, and then we're going to continue through season 4, and oh yeah, she's dead too,
and she's gone.
I think she might be a vessel as well.
That's what I was thinking. The fact that she's going to be in a coma, I think she's going to be an easy avatar for the Mind Flayer to be used, and then the characters are going to be so excited. Oh, she's back. Oh, she woke up. Oh, et cetera, et cetera. Things that we've seen in other shows and movies where you see the character come back and I'm so happy you're back.
So you're saying Max kills Mike?
I don't know if she's going to kill Mike. That would be brutal and horrible. And then they would be like, we want to kill her, but we don't want to kill her. Oh, she killed Mike.
I actually think that works. Because if you think about it, Max is supposed to be Eleven's best friend, right?
Right.
Mike is the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Will is the best friend of Mike. You have Max come back as a vessel. She turns around and she kills off Mike. She's then been used for her purpose, her role. She's killed off. What happens to 11 and Will at that point?
Yeah. Or you have Max then say Will with the power of 11 combined, like this is obviously a potential. I doubt they're going to do it this exact way, but both of them having clear connections to the Upside Down and having psychic powers in 2 different ways. They combine their powers and then purge Vecna or the Mind Flayer from Max, and she actually does come back, but she now knows what she's done under the influence of the Mind Flayer, and having killed Mike, if that's what happened, I could see that being rich storytelling for the character, because nothing is more brutal than having 11's best friend still around, and every time she looks at her, she knows you're the guy, or you're the person who killed my boyfriend, and I can't blame you because you weren't the person that actually did it. It was the Mind Flayer controlling your body. So, like, I can see that being a direction they would take it. I think that's ample ground to have Max get brought back, especially because the dumbest thing to do in a show is to bump off a character. What you want to do is put them in a coma, take them off the table temporarily so you can bring them back whenever you want, so you can use them again, a la the Mind Flayer. And then the same thing goes for Will, who he was gone for the entire first season and now is able to manifest his abilities to go, oh, hey, I'm recognizing where the Mind Flayer is. I can feel Vecna. He's over here. He's over there. And then you have the thing that I think is most interesting that they're finally committing to is the city of Hawkins is directly being affected by the Upside Down.
Yeah.
The earthquake has happened. Vecna's plan goes into.
Do you call it an earthquake?
Well, that's what they call it, is an earthquake. Yeah. But in reality, it's 2 dimensions ripping into each other and having this cataclysmic event. where you're having potentially more demogorgons running rampant. You're having the Mind Flayer be able to do more evil things directly by sending out his avatars. And then you have Vecna, who now knows about all these characters. He's been attacked by all these characters. And so now he has specific targets instead of just random teenagers that are getting bumped off like they did in this most recent season.
Other than Max,
where they're showing they're obviously, they try and stick to certain themes from things from the 80s. So like the first one, you see the ET comparisons, you see all of these little things. The second season, they lean a little bit into like the Lost Boys, where it's like, oh, I'm bad and I don't know what I want to do with my life. Blah, 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 blah. And then they move from that into the third season, where that one, it was kind of all over the place.
Back to the Future,
almost like they're leaning heavier onto like the Back to the Future, the mall, all these things, mall rats and stuff like that. And then you have this season where it's clear homage to classic 80s horror like slasher films, with the person that's going around
because I think like the school scene is a direct like homage to, what was it, Carrie?
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, like, just 80s horror in general, I think is kind of like the homage for season 4 here. I'm kind of curious to see what they do with season 5. Like, are they gonna do like some kind of like action-y, like, here's a Terminator kind of thing going on, you know? Like,
well, I mean, they did make a joke about that in the third season.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The Russian Terminator.
Yeah.
But I could see them definitely leaning into more of an action based season, because more stuff is on the line. The Upside Down is directly interacting with the normal world. Vecna now has targets that he wants to attack. You have the Mind Flayer, who is this malevolent, all-powerful, evil creature that is now saying, hey, I've made my move. I'm literally conquesting my way into this universe. So I think they're probably going to lean into some 80s action, which I think is going to be sweet. And they are probably going to start getting a little more hardcore. You're seeing these characters get stronger and stronger in how they fight things off and survive. And now to the point where the first season, they're just a bunch of random literal children that are like, I don't know what to do. Oh, the flower face monster. Meh. And then they get to this season where they're like wearing bandoliers and like hitting things with trash can lids and shooting stuff with shotguns. So now they've gone into like the 80s horror films where the Scream Queen is now becoming the hero of the story and fighting against the Freddy Krueger, the Jason, the etc. And so now I think this new one, they're going to kick into some Rambo. They're going to get into some like Predator stuff where it's like, oh, chain gun, or people are going to be like holding machine guns and AK-47ing like monsters down because they're like, oh, it's finally happening.
Part of what I see as like, oh no, you had a thought, never mind.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can we like also talk a little bit about the Dungeons and Dragons experience going on here?
Overall,
it's kind of been like an underlying theme like throughout the entire show.
I was gonna do a theme comment.
Characters of like, you know, one level up after the other, and
exactly.
I think that's kind of like where you're seeing like the whole bandolier thing and all that come into this like latest season. Like, they're finally understanding like their roles, what they're supposed to be doing, and they're equipped.
But they
what does it look like when they upgrade?
But they try to reject it, and that's another thing. So another theme, there are two themes I think that are common in the show throughout the extent of the show, is that they try to bury their problems, and whenever they do, it becomes worse. It expands, it rots. It becomes infected, like the visuals and stuff. It has like a visual aesthetic that it's rotting, it's getting infected, and you can see it in the red coloration and everything. I think that, and every time they try to push an issue down or an issue is forgotten or dismissed, it becomes worse. And you also see that in how they behave, like in relationships and everything. Everything they're not addressing, it becomes worse than what it actually would be. And so. And like you said, they're progressing, you know, they're leveling up and stuff. And I just see that as they're not willing to accept the roles that have been put upon them. Like they're trying to avoid these things, which are inevitable. Like you're going to grow up. It's inevitable. You're not going to be this age, and you're going to have like you're going to have to do the dirty work, and they don't want to. They keep trying to get away from it, but when they do, then it's the worst. But they are leveling up. They are doing it. So it's a kind of a thing about coming of age. You're accepting, you're taking on the reality of the world.
They have to grow up
and realizing, it is deadly. It is violent. You are going to have conflict and people who oppose you. And so I think that might be another theme there. And that people, like what they are. They're the cast-offs. They're the rejects. And the rejects are the ones who actually have to save everybody because they don't have that support. They have to do it themselves because nobody else is willing or knowledgeable enough to step up. And it's literally happening now that what they buried, the upside down, has literally come up to the surface. It's literally now out in the open. And I expect, and this is another thing, they keep hiding all these repercussions and all these events that happen in the upside down. And now I think like the death of Eddie and everybody else. And now I think that they're finally going to be able to speak these things and have people listen to them and actually have they'll actually have credence to actually speak on this.
So speaking about like having the responsibility to do something, I'm going to explore like 11 and her father here real quick. Does anybody else feel like
is it Papa or Pop?
Does anybody else feel like Papa was killed off a little early before we actually got to know more about him and who he was?
His character was just getting interesting and they bumped him off.
By the way, I
don't know if he was actually bumped off.
I don't know. I don't believe anything until someone's head gets chopped off. And even then, I still might have one or two doubts, especially with this. But I do want to say,
test the coils in the dead head, it's fine.
I do want to say that I think that she's going to realize that Papa was actually literally doing things for the good of her, even though he had doubts, which you see that's a common trend with 11 and her interactions. People give her the benefit of the doubt.
But if he was doing things for the good of them, why would he put them in a room and make them face off against each other to determine who's the most powerful?
But there can only be one.
But do you recall what he said to them when he said this? You can't do it in anger, and you can't do it with something else. You can't be like violent or whatever. They disobeyed. Each person who stepped up there, they actually disobeyed his rules of the scenario. Every single one of them, even 11. So they weren't doing what he did, but he did allow them to do what they wanted to do. They were still permitted to. They can't be overly aggressive, but he allowed them to do that stuff. But he gave rules, very clear rules. You can't do it in anger, and you can't do it, I think, with like violent intent, or you can't be like aggressive or something. And all of them broke those rules. The other thing is, I don't know if it is his character that he does have more of a good side. I think you might discover that in the 5th season. But I do think they might cover it in flashbacks. But I do think that
definitely
the actor, I perceive if they wrote this, they wrote it really well. But I think the actor wanted to be better than the character was written. And some of the choices that they made with like the character, I don't think that he felt they were the best choices. And when he tried to play it, it didn't suit the portrayal how he was portraying it.
Did anybody else feel like in the intro of the show that they were kind of propping him up to have some kind of abilities or powers himself?
I think that was kind of toyed with very briefly. They left it open to that to be a potential, but I think they're actually, honestly, I like the show, but I think that they've gone to the point where their cast has gotten too large. And that's another reason why I think the character of Mike
doing a Stranger Things Avengers movie.
Yeah, I think that they're actually. I think that's a big reason why they're more than likely going to bump off Mike. Is the cast the story has gotten so muddled and kind of watered down because you have so many characters to keep track of. You're not able to have the main cast really be highlighted because they're all separated and they're all in this, 3 here, 2 here, 4 there, 3 here. And because of that, you're not really getting the impact of a lot of moments where you could have if it was like, the 3, 4, 5 main characters are going on their journey. To use the Dungeons and Dragons metaphor, you're not seeing the main squad, the main party, go and do what they're supposed to do. Instead, you're seeing them go, you're having your own adventure over here. You're having your own adventure over there.
Side quests.
Yeah, side quests, which side quests are important. They need to be there to level up characters. They need to be there to flesh out certain aspects of a character. Now this person has this ability because they find out who they're related to, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't matter in the grand scheme, because if all you're doing is side quests with these characters and nobody finally meets up and does the full journey, then nothing progresses, and you feel it's literally like the definition of fluff episode.
I feel like this is also part of the adolescence, going from adolescence to adulthood thing, in that your family, your friends, everybody's going to break apart. And when you come back, things aren't going to be the same as when you left, which is, I think, part of what they're doing. You know, it comes back and it's a little bit worse for when you left it, maybe, but they all came back and they all developed differently. They have different experiences, and they also have different opinions of each other. Life has flavored your experience, your perception of your relationships.
So speaking of the side quests, do you guys remember the number on the side of the pizza van? Did any of you guys call that number?
I did not call the number.
You called the number?
I was tempted.
I was great.
I was tempted to. I did not, because I was like, because I know that there was like an old couple, an elderly couple who had like the number from I think, is it Bruce Almighty or something? The number for God, and everybody's like, "Is this God calling him?" So I was like, I don't want to help that situation if there's an actual person on the other.
It's not an actual person. They set up that number intentionally for people to call it because they figured somebody would.
Of course.
And so I saw like a little thing floating around on whatever media space. It was like, "Hey, give this number a call if you watch Stranger Things and whatnot." And so you get the like guy who drives the van,
Argyle.
Yeah.
Is he doing the intro for like the pizza place that you hear?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, that's good audience interaction and stuff.
And I mean, I'm talking about how the cast increasing in size is starting to kind of water down stuff. I did still appreciate the character of Argyle. He's a fun character.
He was one of my favorites.
Of course he is. He's like the audience member who gets to make the jokes, and he's just comedy relief.
Yes.
And it's fun, definitely. But I couldn't help but feel like so many main cast members, like Mike, for example, Mike and Will kind of have almost no weight in any of this last season.
Really?
They could have been unconscious, a la Max is now, and the story would have almost progressed the exact same way.
I see.
Like, there was the reasons why they were there to spur on 11 by like, we're going to the roller rink and something happens to 11 and then the story changes. But like, you could have easily just been like, me and Will went to the roller rink to celebrate my birthday and I miss my boyfriend. Too bad he's in a coma, and then have the same story happen. So
they wanted to give you doubts about them and show that she's seen as a monster to Will, even though he doesn't acknowledge it.
Ever.
By the way, the guy who plays, or not to Will, Mike. By the way, Mike, the black kid, I forget his name.
Lucas,
Mike, Lucas, and maybe the mom and 11, not so great actors, in my opinion.
I
like Lucas.
I didn't. I thought he was like.
Are you talking about Will's mom?
Will's mom.
Will's mom. Yeah. Why not?
I thought she was fine. I thought she did a pretty good job this season.
This is the thing. If she's playing it well, then there's a logic there in her brain that I don't understand. There's a thought process I don't understand, because she smiles a lot at situations I wouldn't really be smiling at. So I don't actually get it. But if not, then I would say that she's a bad actress. But I don't. but I didn't like Lucas, and I didn't like Mike and the girl who plays 11 in their portrayals, and people said that they saw a difference in like their acting, like, oh yeah, I see now that you were a kid now, and your kiddiness, your cuteness overrode my ability to discern if you're a good or bad actor. I didn't actually like him in the first season. I didn't like Mike, the guy who played Mike. I didn't like his portrayal in the first season, and Lucas, I didn't like the kid who played Lucas. I didn't like his portrayal either, and the mom was also weird to me. So it didn't really change from there. It really changed from the first season to last season. The guy who played Will, and I think the girl who played Max, she's yeah, but the dad in Popper and stuff, I think these people are better at acting. But that's my own take. So that might be another reason they might get. You know what I'm saying? In the next season,
I don't think Lucas gets killed off. I don't think I like Lucas's character. I thought he did really well this last season. Trying to be there for Max the entire time while being just like emotionally closed off to. He did everything that he could, and then he's also being hunted down by his team captain from his basketball team, and then has to fight him in the end and like overcome that, while at the same time watching his girlfriend be killed by Vecna. Like,
honestly, that was one of the best parts.
I think there's a strong setup there for season 5 where he does a lot more, and I'm excited to see that. Mike, he's a hard one. Like, he's been one of the main characters of the show. I think that he fits the character. The character just doesn't have a lot behind him. And
or to do.
Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, hey, you're like the heart and soul of the team. What is the heart and soul of the team doing? Like,
he stands there and says happy things.
I didn't see much like deep like character stuff. I didn't see much deep character work, in my opinion. I didn't see him go deep into the psychology of this character. And I think that there is potential for that. But it seemed more like it seemed to me like the guy who played Lucas and then the guy who played Mike and stuff and 11, at times they were doing kind of like Disney acting to me.
See,
but 11, you can pawn it off on. She has weird social cue things because she's raised alone or whatever.
In a lab,
forever. By the way, you should know English. If she's talking to a guy at least every day, anyways, but my opinion.
I think Lucas in particular, he's one of my favorite characters because he's the normal dude.
Yeah.
He's the regular guy.
Really?
Even more than Mike is the regular guy, because Mike is basically your first character you meet in the show. But Mike ends up kind of, I think he is, he's the bridge, he's the chain that connects all the characters together. But he's not, there's not a lot of substance to his character, which is a bummer because I actually kind of like the actor. I think he's relatively decent. I think he's solid, especially in this role. But the character itself has almost nothing to do. Where Lucas, I really enjoy his character because he's not dating the main heroic figure. He's not dating 11. He's just friends with the big people. And so he's just the guy trying to have a normal life and have normal things. He's the one who goes, hey, I'm going to join the basketball team. I'm going to try and be a person in reality.
What are you talking about?
I've seen these horrible things.
Those people are people.
But
and
also took on, like, the third biggest bad guy in the show at that point. Like, coming up to the very end, like, they're hunting Eddie. Lucas like betrays his basketball team as they're hunting Eddie.
Exactly.
Then they him and they try to take his life. Meanwhile, Max is over there fighting for her life against Vecna. So he's trying to save her while at the same time, like, trying to save everybody else by defeating his team captain from the basketball team, who's now trying to murder everybody.
It's too on the nose for me. All this, like, so many big, like scenes and stuff were too on the nose for me for the perspective they're going for. It's just like, oh yeah, they're all Hicks. Okay, great. And of course, you got to be the big bad guy and stuff. All that kind of stuff. I was just like, come on. But like I would say the reason I don't think that he's so great of an actor is because when he had those scenes, and I think it was probably written poorly as well. Some of this, I think that they can see which actors have more potential, so they give them better work. They give them more important things, not more important, but they have better scenes. But Lucas, the guy who played Lucas, when he's talking to, and it could just be the character, when he's talking to Max, he has like so many interactions with her where he could actually level with her and be like, actually get deep into the relationship and stuff. But he's like, "Are you okay?
Okay, no.
You like it?
He can't,
No.
and you've missed that because you didn't watch season 3.
I know they broke up,
in a relationship. They broke up,
right?
And he knows that like Max is struggling with her brother's death, but she's also not talking to anybody about anything. And you see in the beginning of season 4, she's completely closed herself off.
But if everything's gonna die,
he's dealing with like all the symptoms of like people who are dying by Vecna, and then she's not telling anybody anything. So he's sitting here like, "Hey, are you okay? Talk to me.
Talk to me." But this is the thing. Either his character really doesn't understand interpersonal relationships, which is if you want someone to give you more information, more detailed information, you have to provide it. You don't just say, "Talk to me." You actually have to say, "This is what I'm feeling. Am I right in how you're feeling about this?" That's what he should be doing. And especially if the world's about to,
because there was a separation of the relationship.
No, but especially if the world's about to end. Come on, you're going to be more open. I mean, what better time to actually break things down? Because, I mean, this is the thing. He was talking like, "No, talk to me directly. Don't write it on a letter." But again, he's not actually willing to express these deeper sentiments. He's not actually going to talk to her about that. He's not going to be a man is what he's not going to be.
Well, the thing is, you have a character.
Like, cut off a relationship with somebody and then gone back to them and like spilled your heart out to them? That's just something that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I have. A couple times.
Okay,
because they're human. Because you want to salvage things as much as you can, especially if you think there is still an opportunity. You want to do that, especially when things still hurt.
I think that is the clear show of Lucas being the human character, though, because he is flawed. He's not going to be this grand heroic character who goes, "I'm going to tell you exactly what I think and feel, and we're going to move past this." No, he goes, "I'm a super awkward teenager who doesn't really know what I'm doing, and so I'm going to try and interact with you, my now ex-girlfriend, and I don't know how to do it properly. And I know all these crazy crap is happening, but I also want to have a normal life. I want to move past some of this ridiculousness and actually become a regular living human being. But I don't know how to do that."
He's boring.
That's the point. He's a normal guy.
I don't think he's boring. I think
he's irritating.
Which is what I want to see.
He's boring and irritating, and he's bland. He doesn't think anything.
That is what I love about the Lucas character, is what you're describing, because he's the dude who just shows up and goes, "Hey, I'm going to help as much as I can. I don't know what's happening, but I will help."
He looks like he has 2 inches of depth of thought and then nothing beyond that. That's what I read on his face when I see him acting. I'm like, he's vacant. He's like an empty submarine. You can go places, but the submarine still stays empty on the inside where it counts. He's got like 2 or 3 guys operating the thing, operating the ship, and the rest of them are just like, that's my opinion.
He's weighing his position as like a popular guy being on the basketball team, but this is like a successful basketball team for the city, right? And then he's also like looking at all of his friends and going, "You guys are like all nerds playing D&D here. I enjoy doing this, but I also really want to be part of the popular guy crew." So he's like stuck in the middle between that, and then like all this stuff starts happening all over again when they thought they were done with it, and so now he's like, "Well, I got to go help my friends because I can't just leave my friends hanging." So he goes back to do that, realizes that Max isn't doing good, and tries talking with her, can't communicate with her because he doesn't know how, because just like Wilhelm Scream here said, he is an awkward teenager and doesn't really understand like how to convey emotions, which I think is fair for most people at that age. Like, we're not going to be like, "Hey, let me pour out how I'm feeling right now and have you try and communicate back with me what you're going through." Like, no, most kids that age are going to go, "What's wrong with you?" Like,
"Why are you being dumb? Why are you being weird?"
Most maybe. I did not interact with people in the same manner. Right. So I find it annoying and stupid I think he's an annoying idiot. That's what I read. And just open your flaming mouth and use your words, man. Use your words. And plus, the other thing is, you said that he's around the popular kids. I'm talking about the scenes where they were alone, like in the middle of school, when he's talking about like the tickets and all that stuff. You had a chance to speak. You had a chance, especially when it's private. But you wait, and then again when he's talking to her at the cemetery alone, he doesn't. He then says the same stuff. Talk to me. All you're saying is blah, blah. That's all you're saying. You're just saying empty words like hello, over and over again, expecting someone to give you a soliloquy. But no, that's not going to happen. But you're not going to give me Shakespeare if I'm only telling you hello, good day.
But you're specifically talking about a person who, at that point, also in that season where he is younger, even younger than he is in this newest season, in a cemetery.
No, I'm talking about season 4.
Oh, right. Okay. So, but even that being said, you're also dealing with people who are at a young age dealing with extreme stress.
Okay.
So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for even the idea of how everything is connected to the mind. People, including the people that go nuts in the city who are like, oh, let's string them up, etc. Oh, let's be the team captain with the shotgun who's going to try and kill everybody.
It's just dumb stereotypes.
But you have people that are being influenced mentally through potential PTSD and high stress scenarios, and their brains, their emotions are overriding their natural positive thinking, and it's making them go in extreme directions, where you have the quote-unquote hicks of the city where they're like, oh, let's go out and hunt this person down.
Those stupid Christians.
And then you have
dumb bigots.
I mean, even beyond that, you just have people who are like, oh, what we think is happening, and we're going to leap emotionally into it. My mind is telling me what I want to do, and I'm just going to go that direction. And so,
by the way, they were smiling about robbing a mobile home from a couple. That is, and they're laughing. Yeah, they're mocking the fact that they're mocking their home and their vehicle. They're saying, laughing at it and stuff. Dude, you just took away people's lives and you're going to mock them on top of it. You stole it and you have no regret. These people are all terrible. All these kids are terrible. And I don't care like what they say. They don't deserve happiness, in my opinion.
They don't deserve
a happy ending. They're jerks. I mean, yeah, they're doing like good stuff, but I mean, they're also terrible people all the time. All the time.
Anyways, I think it's a general trope of television, and even with this show, if people told each other what they actually felt and what they actually knew, problems would be solved in 2 or 3 episodes.
Right.
So obviously that's not going to happen.
That's what I wanted from Stranger Things.
I know. They use it as a crutch to be able to make storytelling happen for a longer period of time, stretch out plots, etc. by going, oh, I'm not going to tell you what I think.
Stealing a camper? They could have taken a car, you know. They literally could have stolen any car.
They had to steal the person.
They had to steal these 2 people's home and then laugh about
they couldn't hotwire They couldn't hotwire a station wagon. They had to rob people of their home.
They were in a bus.
But
at one time.
But ultimately, I think the show is very much a coming of age story. And I like the fact that we've seen these actors and these characters grow from being children, which you think of like kids in elementary school, kids in like early middle school, progress through these extreme events, and you see them become who they are now, which is in high school, becoming adults, dealing with real problems, real things with weight, while also obviously having to straddle the fact that, hey, we know about what's actually happening. We know these horrible events are occurring, and you get to see that. That's really cool to see over the extent of the show, but there is clear faults with the show. And I think for me, the biggest gripe that I have would be the fact that there's so many characters now, so many, that there was points when I was watching it where I just went, yeah, can we move on to the people I care about? Like, I don't care about these characters. Can we move to the actual ones that I'm interested in? Why are we spending time on people who I didn't give a crap about 3 episodes ago? It hasn't changed. Move on. Let's get back to the cool people that are interesting to watch and I actually am invested in.
And talking about Hopper and the mom's friend who's like the secret agent Russian dude.
So I liked the majority of the Hopper storyline, and I think it's Barry. Despite all of them are awesome. Like I'm like, yes, this is what I want to watch. These guys are just like going nuts, and seeing Barry just like beat the crap out of the pilot and stuff. I'm there for that. I'm totally down. He's hilarious. Everything I've watched him in is
that was my other favorite character. Yeah. I like that guy. Well, I like that guy, but my other favorite character was the terrible Russian guy who was going to sell them. I actually loved him. Yeah. Him, and then was it Dustin? Dustin? What's his name?
Dustin.
The fat kid. Anyways, the one who became fatter at the last season. Anyways, so I loved both of their characters like the most out of the entire cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But by the way, if someone is a black belt in karate, which he was, the guy, not Dustin, but the guy with the beard.
Barry.
Beardy. He had the fact that he had a black belt, I was like, no way can you fake get a black belt. So he must literally have skills. Murray. Okay, Murray.
There you go.
Sounds better. Murray, I was like, no way can you get a black belt and not have skills. So I was glad that they actually went, okay, even though he doesn't have confidence, he actually does have skills and everything. I did think it was a little, much of a stretch. They're prisoners in a Russian, in a Soviet prison camp. But aside from that, good character moments and stuff. But
you knew that I'd like him in order to understand that stretch. So it was fair storytelling, because from season 1 you've kind of seen the involvement of the Russians, and then season 3 happens. You have Hopper getting stuck in the area there, and then all of a sudden him disappearing because people come in and take him away.
Right.
So
there's more story there that you've missed.
Well, I watched the flashbacks of him getting abducted by the Russians.
Okay.
I also watched him, the explosion and everything, and that she thought he was dead and all that. And I knew that they'd been working, that the Russians had been there. They disguised themselves. They broke in to portray that.
Especially the fact that you like Murray so much, and if you do watch season 3, you will get way more out of Hopper, Will's mom, Murray, because they really come in to the main focus, and they ended up becoming pretty much my favorite characters. Like I started caring less about the kid characters who were the main protagonists, and then I'm starting to just be like, no, I just want to watch these guys. These guys are awesome.
You know who I really don't care about in the show right now?
Who?
This is gonna sound horrible. Nancy. I could do with a lot less Nancy.
Is that the mom?
No, that's Mike's sister. Yeah, Mike's sister. I completely agree. Like, the character, I honestly forgot she was in the show.
She's another terrible actress, in my opinion.
They brought her back in for season 4, and I had forgotten that she was a thing. I had thought, like, oh, she moved away and she was done with the show. Like, and then they brought her back, and I went, oh, right.
By the way,
she exists.
By the way, she's stepping in like they made Steve always. They literally had to have Steve not take action several times. He literally had to wait standing and have another girl rescue the girl or whatever, or the girl rescue him. And he has to stand there. No way would he be like standing in the back. I'm going to wait 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Now I'm going to go get you. No, that doesn't make any sense. And by the way, I think that guy who plays Steve rocks as an actor.
Steve is awesome.
And Will's brother.
Will's brother?
Oh, no, not Jonathan.
I don't like Jonathan.
Jonathan, I think him and Nancy, I think their story is done.
Yeah,
like
I think they gotta call it.
They're trying to do this will they won't they thing where it's like, oh, they both aren't feeling the same anymore now that the extreme events have transpired and they're not really into each other. And I'm like, I don't care about that.
She's dumb.
Steve is the most interesting person in this love triangle. I don't give a crap about either of the other two people.
Really?
Steve is awesome, and he's actually
Steve needs to get a good quality girl.
A good quality lady. Because he honestly,
if she wasn't on the opposite side of things, but
she wasn't. Yeah, right. But
Robin?
Yeah.
Which one is Robin?
She's his the coworker that was introduced in season 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Who she's kind of a flatline for me personally. I enjoyed her bits and parts in season 3, but I just don't care about her character either.
Garbage.
There's so many of these characters that they're minor, interesting aspects of them, but they're really there just to push the story forward. And then I'm like, cool, you can.
No,
it's fine.
They're there for reasons. They don't have to use them. They put them in positions because they want them in those positions. That's why.
Right.
It's not because of the story. I'll tell you that. But it's but they're dumb anyways. It doesn't.
But that's my point.
They're
like
not necessary for the story at all. They're there for other agendas, and we know this. But
and the fact that they have these characters in here, or even characters who aren't there for an agenda's sake, they're just there to exist and just like, oh, you have one moment to move the plot forward. And then I'm like, once you're done with that, I don't need to see you in the show anymore because there's nothing to your character. And really, you're just bogging down the main characters that I want to watch. You're just taking up runtime, and I'm getting annoyed every time they're on screen because I'm like, cool, this is where I get up to go get popcorn or use the bathroom. Awesome. No, I don't want that. Get the extra fat off the steak. I want the meat of the story.
Fat. We just want the protein.
Yeah.
Protein. We just want the main thing.
Main thing. Yeah. So to me, Steve is, I think, my personal favorite character in the show, which if also spoiler alerts for Breaking Bad. If you haven't watched it, that's actually a show that's been out long enough that you should have watched it, but it is a spoiler. In the Breaking Bad show, you have a character, which is Walter White, the main character's brother-in-law. The brother-in-law becomes the hero of the story. He becomes the actual good character, the one that you want to succeed.
Oh, yeah.
And then they end up killing him, but he has the most interesting change to his character where he starts out being this jerk piece of crap dude who you actually hate in the first season. You're actually like, oh, he's a jerk. I don't like him. He's usually just rude and really judgmental. He's pig-headed, all these terrible qualities. And by the end of it, you go, hey, this is a person who actually stands by his morals. He does what's right, and he wants what's best for everyone. Like, he actually wants to make people helped and better. So he's really cool. And then obviously he gets bumped off and it's terrible, but
it's really great how you kill the bad guy dies at the end of the series of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, which is great.
Walter White.
But you have
I'm glad he's dead.
I'm glad he's dead. But the same thing happens with Steve. You get to see this guy who starts out as the bully, the piece of crap jock who's just there to take advantage of people, and a classic 80s trope. He's the jerk who's just making things harder for the main characters. And then throughout the show, you see him grow and grow and grow to the point where he's like, not only is he willing to help, but he's actively a boss. Like, he's gone full circle, and he's now nowhere near the jerk character you knew that was like the depth of a thimble. He's now way more interesting, way more depth, a smarter person, a funner person, and ultimately a more boss dude who's actually like, I'm taking care of business.
Babysitter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his role. He's the BA babysitter.
Yeah.
It's dumb. The other thing is, I'm actually going to disagree with you in part on that, because I think in the first season, I think you could see him as the jock who doesn't have any depth to him. He doesn't have like morals, like any good points. But the way I watched it is he had mostly good points, but he did have points where he fell. Like, he did have places where he did do the low thing. But overall, even though his position, even though he's popular, and even though he hung out with horrible people, like the worst, the classic, popular jerks or whatever at school, even though he did that, he was, for the most part, good. And at least he wasn't, stealing homes from people at the beginning. He wasn't. At least he wasn't killing people and trying to cover it up. He wasn't killing like masses of people just because you don't like them or whatever. He was good overall. He was like one of the best people. Yeah, I'm talking about 11.
Oh yeah, but that's my point. I like Steve way more than I like 11.
Yeah, but I don't think that he was horrible at the beginning. I think
stereotypical.
I think he looked like the stereotype, but I didn't see that he looked. I didn't see that his substance was all the stereotype. I think he did have deficits at one or two places, or I think he did have low points at one or two places where he made bad choices. but I think overall he was good. And I think that you saw that pretty early in the first season where he's like, no, I don't like you guys. You guys are trash. I'm gonna bounce out of here and leave you creepy, horrible, morally people.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ditch you people in the first season.
Yeah, and that's my point. Like, you get to see the most depth and growth with his character because he goes from being the stereotypical jock, the stereotypical bully who, in any other show, in any other movie, you're going to see him just be the annoying jerk who's like, oh, I don't believe you guys. You guys are making stuff up. Monsters? What's a demigorgon? I can't even spell gorgon. Whoa! And then he ends up getting bumped off at the end.
But they still try to. Every opportunity, they try to get the guys to look dumb.
Well,
I don't know this. Tell me basic
because they want to have cheap jokes and cheap gags. Yeah. But they do so much with Steve's character throughout the entire series that by the end of it, he is my favorite character in the show.
Yeah, he's like one of the best people. He's like the best or one of the best out of everybody
the most
there.
Heroic person in the show because he's just like, yeah, that's who I was, and I've put it aside and I've moved on. I actually communicate with people and tell them what I think now, and I'm willing to help everybody,
even though
so cool.
Even though they ditch me, even though they hate me, whatever, he's still willing to be like he's still willing to be like the best guy or like one of the best guys. And I don't know why she's with Jonathan. I mean, especially at the point that you end up in the fourth season. Although I didn't watch the development in the second and third one much, but it seems like he's kind of like he's trying to slide into them DMs, if you know what I mean, with what's her face, with the no face actress, the girl who okay, that's not nice, with the girl who can't act, in my opinion, or with the terrible part, whatever. But the lead, what's her name? Jenny? What's her name?
Nancy.
Yeah, Nancy.
I think, I think overall that's like the biggest issue though, is you have very select characters who get awesome writing, awesome growth. They actually have character development. You see them progress and become more interesting and more complex as characters, which is exactly what you want. But they can't do it for everybody. The cast is too large. You can't have those really worthwhile moments. And so you have whole seasons where characters are being slept on and there's nothing going on with them. And then they give you a little taste of like, oh, I'm more interesting. Remember me at the end? And I'm like, yeah, where were you for 8 episodes? You weren't there.
The guy who played Steve and the guy who played Will, they are like awesome actors. I was blown away. I don't even care like what they're doing with the characters. They are so good.
They're good.
And they would be good potential for those split off series, in my opinion. Yeah. Well, them and Hopper or whatever. But
yeah.
Predictions for season 5. I think they're going to bring back number 8.
Okay.
I think 11 is going to have to find another training venue to power up even more. I do think Will acquires powers. Mike is killed off. Max is reawakened somehow. And Lucas survives.
Ironically, I think Lucas is going to be the audience member and is actually going to be the heart of the show. I think he is going to have the most character growth, the most crap happen to him, especially after this season, which was like, he got the bad end of the stick.
More than Max, who died?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, I think he's going to get more development than most of the other characters because of the ramifications of season 4. I think Lucas is going to hopefully, having kind of seen both sides of people, both seeing like, oh, I want to move on and I want to become a normal person in society, but I also know how horrible the upside down is. And he has that dichotomy, the duality with him, which I think is really cool. And I think he's going to become a more well-rounded character because of it. And then I think Mike has a huge potential of dying and being used as a progression for 11 and the rest of the original party, the original cast. I think 11 is going to become super powerful, but probably in keeping with kind of like the 80s theme and everything, a lot of movies where these characters have like these superpowers, and then it ends with them kind of riding off into the sunset and they're like, oh, for my next adventure. And that's probably where they're going to branch off and do other stuff. But I think 11's going to get more powerful. Will, I do think, is going to develop abilities. If not only his ability to sense and feel evil from the Upside Down, but also he might be able to start influencing evil by his connection to the Upside Down, having been in it longer than anyone else. And then I think Dustin is going to grow even more, especially with the death of Eddie, his friend, who I actually really enjoyed Eddie. I thought he was going to be a lot more annoying, and I'd heard people had really disliked his character and thought it was like generic rocker bro, oh, I'm a drug dealer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but you actually see a lot more humanity in his character.
It's a bummer they killed.
Yeah. I think that was a mistake personally. I don't think they needed to kill him off.
You hear him say at some point that like he's not the hero, and then he turns out to be the hero because
I saw him dying. I saw him dying real early.
Oh yeah, like I mean, the first time you see him, you're like, "Yep, that guy's got a target on his back." Okay,
but he died in a way that saved everybody else.
Exactly, he sacrificed himself, which is really, really cool. Especially a person who was a drug dealer and leeching off society, and then you see him come to the fruition of being a selfless person, which is really cool. But I think Dustin is going to get more interesting. I think they use him a lot for like gags and jokes, which is good because he's funny and he's a fun character. I think they're going to give him more depth and a little bit more conclusion to who he is as a character.
He's the guy who makes the plan.
Really?
Things happen.
Yeah, I thought that he was bigger than that, just the comedy relief.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they don't utilize it as much. For him, like they don't utilize the actual character as much, and he's used more as comedy relief when the other characters are the ones that are quote unquote planning stuff.
I think Dustin's a Swiss Army knife.
Exactly. And I think he's going to be super useful in the next season and probably kind of spearhead a lot more, which he did a little bit more in season 3, which was cool. I think you're going to see that more in season 5. Mike more than likely will get bumped off, and I think he'll be, oh, we've lost the heart of the group. How will we survive? And they all band around the fact that, oh, we all loved Mike. He was our best friend. Oh, he's my boyfriend. Blah, blah, blah. And they go on. I think you're going to see Will become a more interesting character. His mom, I think you're going to see the adults that are no longer, they're going to be on more equal footing with the rest of the child cast. Since everybody's coming of age, you're going to see them treating each other more as equals and like co-conspirators, which you see a little bit in season 3 also.
And 4.
A little bit in 4, but way more so I felt like in season 3 with them having to take on the Russians.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be bringing the entire cast more to the forefront. More people are going to probably die. There's going to be more on the line. And it's going to be almost impossible to keep it hidden from the rest of the world now that we've had these major events happen in the real world that's killed people. People are missing to the point where it's like practically nuclear fallout in certain portions of the city of Hawkins. And so it's going to be bigger. There's going to be more grand scale of the Mind Flayer interacting with everybody. And I think it's going to be a lot more action packed and more grand as far as how much interaction with the city is going to be happening, instead of like, oh, this tiny little pocket we're going to, and this tiny little like cabin or school or whatever.
The influence of the Upside Down.
Yeah, it's going to be like, oh, we have demogorgons and we have the Mind Flayer and a giant flesh beast crawling around through the city streets, and we're having to fight it off and stuff. Like, I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting than that next season.
I agree with some of those points. Yeah. My feeling is that 11 is going to be the inverse, or she's going to be the opposite of the Mind Flayer in season 5. And that like 1, even though this isn't really a perfect balance, like one, is it not Will? Mike is going to be like an avatar of hers, or somebody who represents and carries out her will in this portion of the Earth. I also think that this is the theory that the upside down world, the upside down is actually going to get conquered by the group in the upside down. So there's going to be a portion that breaches into what's the city's name? Hawkins,
Indiana.
And then like that, how it's getting breached by this dark side, that you're gonna have the upside down be breached by these people, and they're going to conquer it. So you see some conquering both ways. Also, I think there's another thing. I think that part of the show is that it's saying that the mind creates reality. It has control over reality, and I think that that's a portion of what they're going to be going into. But I do agree that 11 is going to get as strong as the Mind Flayer, or as strong as 1. And I think that Max is she's going to get possessed. But I do think that, like the 1, and I get that this is mixed, a theory is that the 1 incorporates people into himself. He takes people over and he kills them. I think that 11, even though she's known for killing people, I think that she's going to open up or develop the power to bring people back to life. I know that she brought them bodily back to life, but I think she's going to separate them or bring them back fully to life. And that she might even use that for, like, Will. How you guys have the prediction that he's going to die?
Mike.
Mike, not Will. You have the prediction that Mike is going to die.
Mike will
and
be brought back to life
and serve as like a thing to stimulate 11 in Jane into becoming into actually becoming like her, to getting full capacity, like getting the full extent of her powers. I think that she might actually bring him back and start the heart going again. But I do think the parents are going to have more of an impact in this in the 5th season. I do think you're going to see more interactions with the world at large with the upside down. I think it's going to breach into more places besides a portion of Russia and this in Hawkins, Indiana. And I do think and I think you're going to see that. I believe that this world, the upside down, is a reflection, and you see part of it that it doesn't happen at the same time as the actual world. Like there's a delay, or that it's behind. I think that you might have been seeing like a primordial reflection of Earth with when one initially went into the upside down. But I think that in that span, he might have just created, or more of the world actually bled into the upside down. But I think you're going to see more of the world actually conquer this the upside down. Maybe a mix of the two, besides what you've seen so far.
More of a mutual battlefield, where instead of it just tiny incursions into the upside down and incursions from the upside down into our world, they're really going to be like clashing and doing more damage to each other.
Right. Or less damage, but more conquering, because the real world is more like life, and the upside down is more death. I believe that's an opinion. And I think you might have had a reference to that with I forget what they called it in D&D, but like that how they refer to it as being like a realm of spirits and the dead and stuff existing as a shadow of this world. I think that it'll be more life there. And I think that you're going to have 11 become more powerful. I think you're going to see Will develop as you're going to see Will's powers develop, whether they're more 11 style powers or a mix of those, and his connection with the Mind Flayer / Henry / the One / what's his name? Vecna. But I think you're going to see more of that, and then I think that like all these, like the show, you see these people who are on the outs. You see you see the geeks, you see the nerds, you see the trash or whatever of the world, and that they're more important. I think that they're going to get their dues, and they're going to embrace or come to be known as like the good people of this of the town of their town and of the world. And I think that they're going to embrace that. So it's going to be like you'd say the resurrection. So you say that Jesus Christ, he died, and he's seen as maybe a priest or whatever, but he's hated by like everybody at the end, but he's not good or whatever. And then he has a place of shame in the eyes of man. But then when he comes back, he comes glorified, and you see him. So I think in that way they're viewed as the trash, and they're going to be glorified, or you're going to see them actually be revealed for who and what they are.
They're going to step into their heroic role.
Yeah,
they're going to be seen as who they really are.
Yeah, they're going to be seen as
people who have been saving the lives of all these people of Hawkins and everything. Yeah, it's going to be revealed to the people of Hawkins, or maybe the world, that's what they are. And I wouldn't be surprised if Papa comes back to life. And I think it's going to be a happy ending, or maybe with the other branches, maybe with the spin-offs, they go to other portions of the Upside Down and show what it's like overall, which I think that they implied, or they brought into that when one was speaking about how he saw other things beside the Mind Flayer, the Shadow. I believe that, and the not Gorgons, the Demigorgons. I think that I think they're going to showcase more aspects of that around the world, and maybe do like how they did with the Evolution cartoon or the Ghostbusters cartoon, where they go to different parts of the world and they have their special tasks or whatever. I was going to say,
they have their side missions.
I think that's probably what they're going to do. It's going to be like all of our characters have aged out, and now we're done with the main cast and the main story. So now let's see, Stranger Things college days. And they're like, I went to NYU and I'm in New York City. And then they're going to do probably a bunch of Ghostbusters motifs and stuff. And how we're interacting in college. And whoa, it turns out the Upside Down isn't just connected to Hawkins, it's connected all over the world in these pockets, and apparently it's attached to people. Whoa,
that's another thing. I think that in this season you're also going to see these people who are more mixed, more connected with the Upside Down and their interactions. But that's kind of a really easy one.
Yeah.
My big prediction for Stranger Things season 5 is that they're going to have a happy ending. That's my big prediction.
Yeah.
And that most people are going to be good. And I actually think that Max is going to come back. And I think that what's his face, Will, is going to say that he's gay finally. And
which is really, 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 really boring. I wanted him to be an actually interesting character, but that's fine.
He's still an interesting character, I think. Even though they gave him that, I still think he's more interesting than many of the other ones. But I think they're going to be...
He can't be quiet and thoughtful and, also like women.
I think they're going to be good. And another thing is, since it's related to time, since they keep saying that time's related and everything, I could see them all traveling back to the past and starting this thing over. I could see them actually reverting everything, saving the town, and they go back to being unknowns, and this whole situation not happening. 11 never taking out that little part of that little chip that prevented him from using his powers, or them talking to him as a child or something. I could see them undoing all of this, and then them having like peaceful lives going forward. And Will never knowing anything about with Mike never know anything about 11, and with and her having like a healthy relationship growing up and developing her powers, and these people are just living out boring lives, which would be the biggest save of all. But that's a theory.
My My main prediction that I think is most important is you had mentioned the parents. I think we're going to finally see Mike's dad kill a Demogorgon.
By the way, he is such a shallow character. It's so annoying. They have these dumb
I love
stereotypes.
Mike's dad. Mike's dad is hilarious. Every
obvious.
single season, he's just like, you guys all want to come over to my house and eat all my food, huh? That's great.
Yeah, but they don't give him like redeeming quality. It's really annoying.
No,
Anyways,
he's just supposed to be the dad who just hates the fact that all these teenagers are at his house all the
he's
time.
supposed to be the dumb, stereotypical kind of non-questioning guy.
He is awesome.
That's
and
what he's supposed to be.
If they do end up finally having the parents, like Mike's mom and dad, be like, oh, this is what's actually happening in Hawkins. I want to see them in the middle of the street, just like gunning down Demogorgons. Like that would be so awesome.
Yeah,
That would be pretty great.
Right?
By the way, I don't like the sister. I don't like what's his name? Not what's it? Tycho? What's his name?
Oh,
Tyler?
Lucas's
Lucas.
annoying sister.
Yeah, I don't like Lucas's sister.
She's really annoying in season 3.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy when they introduced her.
I enjoyed her in season 4. I thought she was pretty great.
I think that it's gonna end up good and happy, and that the people of Hawkins are gonna come to know these people, and that you're gonna have more of these people who are open to the upside down, and but yeah, I think it's gonna end happy, and everybody's gonna get all the power-ups they need for the final season, the final episodes, the final battle, and especially 11. Okay, that's mine.
So obviously, we've talked about what we think is going to happen in season 5. I am genuinely curious. You guys know me. I really enjoyed season 1. I think season 1 is very tight, concise. The acting is forgivable since a lot of them are child actors and stuff, but they still get the story across. The plot is really, really clean. I feel like they don't waste a lot of time on anything, and everything is in purpose for the grander story, which is really cool. That is by far my favorite season. And I love the fact that they're using the Dungeons and Dragons quest aspect in how the characters develop. You get to see it and get to see these characters become more interesting. They step up, they become heroes, and they fight off the Demogorgon beast. And I think that's just a really, really, really good season. Still my favorite by far, but I did really enjoy this and season 3. The second season still is my least favorite, but I want to hear from you guys. What is your favorite season from the show so far?
Go ahead, Cran.
I wanted to see more of the Upside Down. They eased you into it really well. The pacing of the first season was really good, but I still think I like the 4th season most out of the 2 seasons that I watched. I saw the development. I saw the payoff for a lot of character development that they had going on in the 1st season. I saw the payoffs in the 4th season, which I liked. But the downside is I saw the lack of great acting, in my belief. In the 4th season, it stood out to me more. But I really enjoyed the 1st season. But I think I stick with it. I like special effects. I like things exploding and everything, and tentacles and other
Tentacle
dimensional
monsters.
creatures. Yeah, that's what I like. So
Evil monster bats and stuff.
I like seeing guys do rock concerts in the underworld, like flying vampiric bats around and stuff, killing them all and stuff. That's the kind of stuff.
I'm a simple man. I see someone on a roof playing a massive guitar solo surrounded by evil monsters.
I like seeing a dude do a slam. I like seeing a dude do a slam of one of these bat creatures into the ground like he's smashing a guitar. And I love that stuff. That is awesome. And so I got to see them be real heroic. And that's something I guess they don't show too often in the show. Like they don't show them actually doing the hero.
It's much more reserved for like the last episode of each season. That's usually when you see it.
Yeah.
When stuff is really getting nuts, and then you see the characters go, "Oh, we've been running from him for so long. It's time to kick back." And then actually curb stomp the bat monster or shoot the Demogorgon in the head or slice its head off with a dope sword moment, which
That was awesome.
I was blatantly like, all right, yeah,
Good job.
it's obvious what you're doing. You're blatantly saying it's Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm here for it.
Oh, really? Oh, I picked it out as I saw that as like the trope of the the classic Knight's Tale. He goes out and he, not so much
superhero story. Do we all agree Stranger Things is a superhero story?
Yeah, I think you can say that. Yeah,
I think they do superhero-y stuff. I haven't seen them be superheroes. I think it's people. I think the show is doing its people in superhero-y circumstances, trying their best to live up to that. What is required of them.
Having watched
disappointed. You said it's people, and you left a space there, and you didn't say Soylent Green.
It's people. I didn't watch the movie. I would agree with you though, and say that it is a superhero story with a blatant horror theme on top of it.
I wanted to not like the movie or the show. I wanted to not like it, but sadly or thankfully, I actually liked it, despite all their messaging that they inserted into it, all their propaganda stuff, despite all the social stuff that they slipped in. It was still the best Netflix show I have seen. I think it's a seminal Netflix show. I think it changed the course of like streaming service movies and the quality that happened. And I think it's a thoroughly American product, and I'm actually thankful that I'm proud to have watched it.
You gave it a chance.
I think it's good. Yeah. So
that was my next question. I was going to say, Andrew, having not watched it until we forced you by gunpoint to do, you actually liked it?
Yeah, I did. I did like it. And it's a good story. And I don't see good stories. I don't know if it's because this came out before they started just making movies to sell ideas, but before that, it was an actual good story, and it's the kind of thing I miss in modern cinema and modern shows, and they did a good job.
Nailed it.
Well, I'm divided because season 1 and season 4 I think were the best seasons. I am probably going to lean towards season 4 though. I enjoyed what they did with the 2 parts. The build up in part 1 where you have Max, she does beat Vecna the first time around in the first battle. So on, quote unquote, when she's in the upside down and he's kind of got her trapped there, and then she goes and rips a piece of his neck out.
That was great. Yeah.
And then you have the Running Up That Hill song, which became popular, and everybody's like, oh, why is this 80s song popular again? You're like, well, if you watched Stranger Things and you saw this episode and you see how perfectly that song fit the moment for Max, it's like, okay, yeah, that's why, because everybody's drawing this song to that moment and reliving that moment through the song, which is pretty awesome. But so you see that, and then you also have the second part 2, where you have Eddie up there doing the guitar solo.
Yeah, the master of puppets.
Oh my gosh.
I had heard that it was really cringy and really obvious, and I was like, oh, this is going to be, and I was nope.
That's awesome.
This is awesome.
Nailed it. That is what I'm looking for.
That's what I wanted. I'm fine.
You
okay.
wanted to be like,
I'm simple. I might be a simple-minded fool, but I was there for it.
Yes.
I wanted to see him smacking more of them, though. Personally,
I wanted to see him kill more.
I wanted to see him attack them more, because I thought that would be fitting. I liked the fact that he always said, "No, I'm not. It's just a fantasy. I'm running away," which you see.
Yeah.
And this time he stood up. I don't know.
It changed though because of Dustin. I think Dustin was what changed him, to be honest.
Yeah.
If Dustin wasn't there and it was just him, he would have been out.
Yeah, I think so.
Dustin was there and he actually cared about Dustin, and he's like, this guy is my pupil. He's somebody I want to continue living. I want to see him live out his life even further than where it is now,
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I do everything in my power to make sure he gets out of this alive.
Which
And
is
then
what he
you
did.
see- Yeah.
Which
That's
is what he
exactly
did with the Dungeons and Dragons group, with the Hellfire Club.
Yep.
He fostered these people to make them better, and he did. And he wanted it to continue and be a good force for the world. He didn't change. He just made it reality. I want to be a good force for the world, even though now it actually costs me physically. And I also think he didn't see a future for himself actually in the world as it was, and that's why he partially gave it up. He's like, this is the best heroic thing I can do. And this is the most I can give to the world. I can be the best. I can be the hero in reality.
I just
I
wanted
hope
to
by
see
the
him
end of the
kill one
show-
with his guitar. Though. I wanted to see him smash one with the guitar. His axe as an axe.
That's what I wanted to see. Exactly.
That would have tipped it right over the edge for me. The minute he finishes, a bat comes at him and he just smashes
Smack.
it.
Dude, it would've been
I would have
so
been
good.
like, yep, and you have like the guitar strings just
That's what I saw.
Fine.
Because they play that on Netflix. They play
I
that. That's
could've
like one of the
retired.
opening scenes, or that's like one of the displayed scenes or whatever. And I was like, I want to see him do that. And I was like, are they going to? No.
Yeah, him grabbing it off the wall, like
It
set
was
it up.
still, even without that, it was still an epic scene.
It was.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty great. I think overall for season 4, like all the build-up moments that you have, the redemption story arcs of a number of different characters, there was a lot of substance in this specific season that I was looking to see, and I was happy with what I got. And I walked away going, okay, I can't wait for season 5. So I'm thoroughly ready for season 5. It's going to be a while before we get it. I know that, but
Really?
yeah, we're not going to see it for, I think, like another year or so.
At least.
They wanted to see how this one did.
I mean, it's still number 6 on TV shows on Netflix.
Yeah,
So-
I think the big thing is they know how big the show has gotten. Like, there's people wearing shirts for it now, and it's gotten way more popular than most streaming shows get. Because most streaming shows have like a half-life of maybe like 2 weeks, and then people stop talking about them. They don't give a crap after that.
People were talking about Stranger Things in this interim between season 3 and season 4.
Yeah,
People have been talking about it, and it's continued. Just people talking about
I
it.
would say it
didn't really die.
It is probably the most successful streaming show, because I don't count like Game of Thrones because that came out technically on regular television first. I would say definitely Stranger Things is the most successful streaming show that started kind of the zeitgeist of like, oh, streaming services have actual weight behind them. They can actually like put some money down and put real good product out.
Yeah, and it is.
because Stranger Things is set in the 80s, is it fair to say like the 80s never dies? Like, think about it. 80s music, it's pretty good.
Well, if you wanted to say that, you could say pre-AD, like BC times never die, because you're still saying the repercussions from like the Bible and stuff. Or you could say that the days of the Greco-Roman days, or
I'm
the days
just
of
saying everything from the 80s that we hear and see today is always remembered as good.
they don't remember it. That's why people don't know about the 80s. Comparatively, maybe yeah, that's true. If you look at the 80s and now, you know.
Since I was born in the 20s, I'll tell you guys, I remember the 80s, and it was exactly like that. There was holes that were opening up in walls, and monsters were coming out, and it was a wonderful time when America was America.
It's not an actual period piece. It's like they put social commentary in it on top of the period piece stuff, and for that I think it's lacking. Some of the stuff that people didn't act that way, and if they did, it's a really terrible part of those people's lives that they're showing on this show. They must have hung around some really poor quality people, but that's not. I don't think that was the standard. It might have been.
I think we can all agree next season, 11 is going to bring Barb back from season 1. She's finally going to come back to life. It's going to be great.
She might.
We're all going to be finally glad to see her, and then she'll probably die in the last scene. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I do think this is like this is like a classic American film series show, whatever. This is it. it goes up there with like Lord of the Rings now, or with Princess Bride, or I don't know, you could say Breakfast at Tiffany's or something. This is like one of those now.
So you're saying this is like a modern piece of Americana?
Yeah, I think at some point we could see a movie made that kind of just epitomizes everything that is to deal with Stranger Things, because this is such a big brand now. I mean, it's to be fair, I mean, if you take Stranger Things and you look at like big series that have had, you know, runs in the past, I think Stranger Things like has a captive audience that surpasses any other TV show that I can think of at the moment. I mean, what's the last TV show outside of like maybe The Walking Dead that has this big of a following that's still talking about it going into the 5th season?
Seinfeld.
The shows that are still ongoing, I can't think of one. Like the only one, because even what's it called? Like you have like South Park, The Simpsons, stuff that's still going on to this day. And even then, people have fallen off of that so much to the point where it's like it's something you put on in the background. It's not something that people are actively like, did you watch the latest episode? Did you watch the latest episode? Like the closest thing to that would probably be South Park.
Really?
South Park? Like, because people are still going like, oh, this latest season is really, really good. It's, oh, the commentary is hilarious, this, and this. But even then, I'd say it's even less so than Stranger Things right now. I think Stranger Things is holding more people's attention. More people can get into it. People are recommending it more. And these streaming services that everyone is getting now, people are pulling away from regular television so much that it's getting even more eyes on it. And like you're saying, how it's kind of a classic storytelling that people identify with and can jump on board with. Even though it seems very simple at first, you latch onto the larger ideas and you go, oh, this is what reminds me of classic Spielberg films. It reminds me of all these other movies and shows that I used to love. And then the fact that it's an era that people love, and they're going to go, oh, let me get in with this, and then you end up appreciating the characters. So I'm really glad that Cranberrylangers is enjoying the show so much and that we got you on board. I honestly expected you to hate most of it, but that is great that you have started to get into it.
Well, propaganda, as long as propaganda is less than story, I'm good with it. If it's mostly story, I'd say it's like 68% or so story, and then some other propaganda on top of it. If you're doing less of the propaganda, more of the story, I'm good, thanks. I mean, if I can buy it, and despite what they do, the writing is actually good enough. Like the characters, even though I think that they chose characters for reasons, the characters actually, what they were saying and stuff, it actually moved the storyline and fit with the story, and it wasn't something that just shoehorned in like dialogue and stuff. Or if they did, it was very little. It was good. I mean, I could tolerate
forced.
Yeah. The only other thing was that they had like a strong anti-God, anti-Christian thing throughout. And I think if you were doing a period piece, it would actually it's less real than it's less true to the actual 80s. But I mean, that's their choice. And it is a fantasy show. So it's not like they're going for realism here.
Well, I think also that's a very common thing, especially with like Lovecraftian horror or horror in general. It tends to lean in that direction because it's the worst possible like scenario and worst possible world. But yeah, I'm glad to see that you have gotten more into the show.
It is a good show.
You can appreciate it for what it is.
Everybody was right. Okay, this is the thing. Everybody who told me to watch it, all the people commenting on it, all the programs, every person reviewing it, they were right. My friends, one of my girlfriends, she was completely right. The people at my work are right. These guys are right. Everybody was right. I was wrong. And so it was good. It's a literal good show. And I actually looked forward to every episode.
Let's bookmark this right now so we never lose the historical moment of you saying that. And I'm really glad you guys appreciated the
Go
latest
watch
season.
it. Go watch the show.
Go watch
It's
Stranger
worth
Things.
it. It's worth it. Better than a lot of the stuff out now. And I usually hate everything that comes out of movies. And
That being said, our next episode is going to be talking about a very, very cool topic. We're finally dipping into, like we talked about in the beginning, about how cool indie comics are, and we're going to be digging a little bit deeper into that. We're going to be talking about indie comics. We're going to be talking about manga and the comic industry as a whole, and what we think is happening right now, things we love, things we don't like. We're going to be talking about pretty much comics in general, the art form, and then we're going to be digging into especially indie comics and manga, because they are crazy stuff is happening with them. So tune in next time for that. And again, thanks for watching. I've been the Wilhelm Scream,
Cranberrylangers.
And this has been the Nerdified podcast. So grab your butts. You just got nerdified.
Nerds.
Nerds.
See you later, nerds.
Adios.